Hello and welcome to the Speaking with Gravity podcast. I'm your host, Joshua.
Hey everybody, my name is Hannah Williams.
You already know it's Terrence Dawkins.
And we are the Speaking with Gravity podcast, the host of it, that is. For the last few episodes of this season, we've had guests, and our guests have been wonderful. Can we get some snaps or some
shout out to them?
Yeah.
And also, if you all are interested in becoming a guest, please reach out to Kervin Sherrills. His information is attached to this.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, we've had some great guests so far, and I mean, we always want to know what people are thinking out there, right? And we want to hear from experts too, right? Mm-hmm. So, and for people who aren't experts, we want to know what y'all are thinking as well. Please subscribe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Please comment. Please, let us know your thoughts. Help us. Hopefully, you're learning some things from us. At least taking some nuggets. Help us to learn from you, and help us to know what are some of the things that we can talk about, right? Even if it's topics, is that okay to say? If it's topics that you want to hear about, we would love to know that, so that maybe we can discuss your topic, right?
Yeah.
What applies to you one of these days. So
this is actually a topic that we had some individuals, suggest. So we're here. We listen to you all. We want to just provide insight and information on different topics. So let's do it.
Definitely. And so Hannah's exactly right. So understanding the reality of ADHD is what we'll be talking about today. And it was a topic that someone asked about. So we'll hop right into it. So I feel as though there are ADHD, people throw that term around, I believe. I think it stands for attention deficit. What's the H word in there? Hyperactivity disorder, right? So it's actually a disorder. You have to be diagnosed with it, but people just throw it out there. Oh, you acting like you ADD, or you acting like you ADHD, right? And that can be dangerous, labeling someone in that way. So we want to talk about it a little bit today. I don't think any of us specialize in that topic per se, but hopefully we can offer some things from being in the practice of mental health. Everyone here except for me, of course. Hopefully we can offer some things that that will shed a light on this topic, and it'll help us come to an understanding of what it is and how we can be empowered by knowing what we do know about it. But we, of course, want to start like we have been doing. Our tradition has been to start with Terrence. Terrence is so connected to the people, y'all, that he knows what the people want to know. So
the producers actually said the people love me.
I think they do.
That's what I heard. That's what I heard. And I ain't saying that ain't got nothing to do with y'all, nothing like that. But that's what he told me. And I appreciate that. So shout out to the producer. I ain't gonna say no names, but we all know who that is. But anyways, the people want to know.
What they want to know.
This actually came from a listener too, by the way. Mm-hmm. So the people want to know. The listeners want to know. The statement is, I only enjoy the talking phase of a relationship.
Oh, wow.
And never want anything after. Is there something wrong with me? I'm not, I ain't saying anything's wrong with anybody.
Did this person have ADHD? Okay, just a general question.
A general question.
So this person did have ADHD. So there's some background context.
Yeah, so they just enjoy the talking phase. Nothing after that. Mm-hmm. Is there something wrong with me? I'm not here to say anything is wrong with anybody, because if that's what you like, that's what you like, right? I personally think that we have to do, like we mentioned this multiple times on previous episodes, we have to do internal discovery of why is it that I just like the talking phase. What am I getting from this talking phase? That am I afraid of getting more after that, right? Mm-hmm. And if so, why? Mm-hmm. Right? So this talking phase apparently is giving me some type of, I don't know what you want to call it, like adrenaline, but some type of satisfaction. So why is that? And then if I was to go past that, why am I afraid to, or why don't I want that? I think those are two questions people should be asking themselves, instead of, is something wrong with me?
Right.
It's not necessarily trying to label yourself like something's wrong, something not wrong, but more of trying to understand yourself.
I completely agree. And my perspective on it is that it may not be something wrong or right about that situation, but I do agree we have to dive deeper into understanding why and where does that that desire to only, experience the honeymoon phases of people and then leave come from. To answer the question, what I think about it is that if a person is dating one person, experiencing the honeymoon phase, or only wanting to date. Can you phrase the question one more time?
Yes, they only enjoy the talking.
The talking
phase.
stage.
And nothing after that.
So I labeled that talking stage as the honeymoon phase, because usually when you're just talking to someone, that's the initial stages of getting to know that person. It's very exciting. It's very fresh and new. So I did label that as the honeymoon phase. And that can be difficult. That can be difficult, of just experiencing the honeymoon phase and not wanting to commit. So I don't want this person to feel like their ADHD is the reason that they only enjoy the honeymoon phase. But like you were saying, Terrence, figure out that deeper understanding and that deeper reasoning as to why you don't want to commit to one person. It may not have anything to do with ADHD, and it may, but until you dive in deeper and understand where that comes from, then that's where you'll find your answer.
I even wonder how far this person has gone past that honeymoon stage. Like, have they even gone past it? They say, I only like the honeymoon phase.
They only like the talking stage.
Yeah, only like the talking stage, and I don't even want to go past there. So I wonder if they even ventured out there. I mean, that's a question. We got to have you on the show, whoever you are, actually. We got to have you on the show so we can kind of chop it up about this. I need to know more. This
is a general statement, but what I've experienced while working with individuals that have ADHD is that they like to keep their interest sparked. They always like to, they enjoy having something to do, keeping busy. So maybe those talking stages help you, stay busy, help you keep your interest sparked, is what I'm trying to say. And then once that spark or that interest has calmed down some, maybe you're no longer interested.
Yeah. I mean, in my mind, it's like maybe you need someone who's able to hold your interest or something.
Long term.
Yeah. I mean, if that's even, I'm still assuming that that's what the problem is, but I don't even know what the problem is. But I mean, I don't know. I would love to have this person on the show.
I got follow-up questions for him, but I do think I would, and I tell this to anybody, I would stay away from, is something wrong with me versus something right with me. I don't like that question. Because it's labeling yourself. Come from a place of understanding rather than trying to figure out if something right or wrong. I personally don't like that. When I'm working with my clients, I don't really teach them that, or I try to help them reframe that because that's a negative way to look at yourself. So I wanted to really point that out.
And also, I just want to highlight that there are different types of ADHD. So in general, ADHD, it comes with inattentiveness. That is the core symptom of it. But the different types, type 1 addresses the inattention without hyperactivity. So the inattentiveness, what that looks like is easily distracted, trouble paying attention, trouble following directions, slow to process information. That a person may be shy or withdrawn, seems disorganized or careless, and trouble following through with tasks. Another type of ADHD is hyperactivity without inattention. So these are the individuals that we see are very hyper. They may be overactive, restlessness, excessive talking, frequent interruptions, difficulty waiting turns, impulsive speech and actions, and loud interactions with others. And then type 3 is a combination of both type A and B. Type 1 and 2,
Man, so it goes deeper than I thought. Definitely. I did not know that there were different types of ADHD. Have you all in your work ever dealt with people who have been diagnosed with ADHD? Just curious.
Yeah.
Yes. So I work in the school setting. I work, in the college setting, which is in school. And I've seen a lot of students that have been diagnosed with ADHD. It's very common. One stereotype in the past is that mostly boys were known to be diagnosed with ADHD, which leads me to saying that ADHD is very common and it impacts both men and women.
Okay.
So I'm glad you mentioned that. Well, what about our global data?
Let's do it. So a 2010 study by Michigan State University revealed that 20% of the 4.5 million children diagnosed with ADHD at the time might have been misdiagnosed.
Oh my gosh.
Furthermore, the CDC research shows that ADHD diagnosis increased by over 40% from 2003 to 2014. While many experts agree that ADHD can sometimes be misdiagnosed or overdiagnosed, anyone dismissing its existence, as some do, it's like claiming that the world is flat. So that's pretty interesting. And it highlights a lot of concepts that ADHD has been misdiagnosed as well as overly diagnosed, which goes back to my point about why a lot of women, and this is an issue in itself, a lot of women have been not diagnosed with ADHD simply because of the stereotype that boys or men experience it. There's a study over in the UK that spoke about a lot of women just not being diagnosed with ADHD. And once they were diagnosed, it was so much more challenging for them to deal with the outcomes and the challenges that came with ADHD simply because they waited so long to be diagnosed.
When you talk about, okay, so you mentioned misdiagnosis, right? I want to take this in a direction. And roll with me on this one for a second. So you mentioned some of the symptoms, inattentiveness, hyperactivity, things like that, right?
Yeah.
From some of the research that I've done, and it states that ADHD could sometimes be misdiagnosed because some of the symptoms looks like trauma.
It's like what?
Trauma. Yeah. So, for example, if a kid goes to school, I'm having an issue with focusing on my work because of something that just happened at home. And that situation always happened at home. And the only thing the teacher sees is me not doing my work.
Actions.
Yes, my actions. So some of those actions or behaviors can mimic ADHD symptoms, but it's actually trauma. So I think that a lot of times what we must do is when we're assessing for something like ADHD, we have to do a full assessment and look at things like what's going on, not just in the school, and look at what's going on at home. What's going on with the kids' environment with parents, siblings, and things like that. Because if you're miss out on that piece, you're probably going to misdiagnose that kid and go, they just got ADHD. Let's medicate them. I'm just gonna be real. Anybody that take ADHD medication is probably, if they're on the right medication, is probably going to see some results. Something. So you mean to tell me that you're going to prescribe? And I'm not against prescribing medication to people that needs the medication. What I'm saying is, you misdiagnose someone, and then you prescribe the medication to help with the diagnosis. And yes, you see results from that medication, which you should, right? Because it's adding in extra chemicals to the body. And then you say, oh, well, this is the diagnosis. This is how we treat it. But you're missing out on the underlying reason why. So I think what we really need to do, and what one of my supervisors told me when I was getting my clinical supervision is, don't take so much weight on the symptoms. You need to understand why the symptoms are existing in the first place. So that's what I would like to add to that.
Yeah, I really enjoyed what you said. And when it comes to ADHD, as well as other mental health conditions or psychological conditions, it's so important to get the overall view and the background context. Like the example you used, if that educator has just spent that 1 year with the child, they're only seeing symptoms that during that 1 year versus the parents or the guardians that are able to look at, the lifespan of that child and see, oh yeah, these are patterns. This child always does this. This child always does this, and are able to realize and recognize those patterns. That's way more meaningful.
Yep.
And I feel like it requires a multidisciplinary approach where the school or the educators are having an input, the guardians are having an input. Maybe if that child plays football or dances, the coach has an input and say, well, I've seen these type of symptoms when they're in this environment with me. Let's talk about this together and figure out what's really going on with the child. I know I appreciate that. When it comes to ADHD, the reason why I mentioned like women being misdiagnosed is that it's very common. As we said earlier, ADHD in itself is very common. But I just want to highlight a book that I recently read. It's called Dear Black Girls by Asia Wilson, the WNBA basketball player, and she's also a native of South Carolina.
USC alum too. Let's go. Gamecock.
So shout out to Miss Asia Wilson. We definitely I read your book and it's definitely a great book. But in the book she highlighted her struggles with ADHD and how it always made her feel like an outcast and made her feel very different and even not as smart as her counterparts or her classmates. And she even used like an example in the book of how ADHD makes her feel. So it made me relate to her experience of having ADHD. But I'm so curious as to how do individuals with ADHD feel different? She said that it made her feel like an outcast, but how can we learn more about ADHD to help these individuals not feel like outcasts, not feel different, but embrace their journey?
I'm gonna say something just kind of, an answer that anybody can come up with, right? I think once again, just going deeper, like not just settling on what we see and just making judgment calls based on that. Like you were talking about the teacher, right? Just going off of what she sees and not having a holistic view, right? Pulling in maybe the counselor, so how is this child in this environment, that environment, how is he at home? I think that's like one of the more obvious ways, right, is by just going deeper. A lot of times we don't want to do the work. Is what happens. We a lot of times we're lazy by nature, right? We stumble upon something, we're like, aha, instead of stumbling upon it and then seeing what else we can stumble upon, what else we can stumble upon, and being inquisitive about it, asking more questions and more questions, because when you ask those questions, you're just gonna find more and more out, and it's gonna help you in your cause. But a lot of times we stop right here instead of continuing on and finding out and going to the root, right, which is exactly what we've been talking about. But I'm also curious to hear.
Well, I think it's funny we're talking about this episode now. Recently, I was talking to someone as far as their kid and some of the things that the kid was experiencing, and it was things like forgetfulness, and unable to complete tasks or focus, and one thing that the kid mentioned was they felt like their brain wasn't really connected or communicating with like their body, so they couldn't really do what their brain was telling them to do. So like it was kind of interesting and fascinating. But what happened was, and this what goes on to answer your question, the parent would then get mad at the kid for being forgetful. Well, where'd you put your cup? I don't remember. Well, you always losing stuff, and start yelling and belittling the kid. And so now what is that kid learning? Oh, well, this is a problem. I'm different, and my difference gets me in trouble. So I need to work harder to probably even mask it, right, or to try harder, and that adds additional stress to the kid, right? So I think something that contributes to people feeling different with ADHD and things like that is because of how other people perceive some of the symptoms associated with ADHD, and then how they respond to it, such as parents, such as friends, such as teachers, anyone like that, right? So I think in order to change how people living with ADHD is perceived, or how they perceive themselves, we got to really change the individuals who have the most influence on them, and that could include family, friends, teachers, and show them that, yes, these are symptoms. Yes, these symptoms can be frustrating, and this goes back to the whole emotional regulation. We need to teach people how to regulate their emotions, so that when they experience these symptoms from the kid or child, that they can regulate before they react or respond.
Right.
Because I think the yelling and things like that comes from a lack of emotional regulation from that part. So a little long-winded, but
it's
yeah.
okay. You said a lot of great
man.
points. Yeah. And I just want to add, so I know a couple people personally that have ADHD, and one person stated that having ADHD, they had to learn how to suppress who they were or who they are as a person just to look like a normal person. So I really appreciate, Terrence, that you said we have to learn how to adapt with that individual. And I know one way that we can learn how to embrace a person that has ADHD on the opposite side is, or on the receiving side, is to be patient and understanding with that person. If you know, and it's case by case, as obviously a child is going to a situation with a child having ADHD is going to look different than an adult having ADHD. But if we're working with somebody or talking to someone that has ADHD, be patient, be understanding. You know, if they forget things, help them make reminders, or do tactical things to help them with the challenges they're experiencing. One other way that we can help individuals with ADHD is just to create an environment that is ADHD friendly. So as I mentioned earlier, that person may need post-it notes on their mirror to remind them to do simple tasks. Are we you know, looking at that in a negative way? Or are we highlighting that in a positive way and say, hey, I brought you some more post-it notes. I saw that you use them often. How are we embracing that ADHD safe environment is another way. And then another skill is just to be flexible. You know, I know that individuals that have autism, they prefer like strict and you know, strict routines. However, somebody that has ADHD is a little different from that. So they may prefer a routine that's more flexible, not so rigid, more free-flowing. So how can we, as a person without ADHD, adapt to that or add to it, to say?
And I heard one that Curvin, I mean, great points. And I heard one that Curvin, producer, said before was focusing on strengths, focusing on your strengths, or helping someone to focus on their strengths.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to get so much negativity being out there. When they're out there in the world, wherever they are, they may have teachers that are trying to diagnose them and different things, and just point out what those weaknesses are. But when they're at home, you talk about this a good bit, Hannah, is having that safe place, right? That safe haven at home for them to be able to communicate effectively and all those great things that you were talking about. But definitely point out what their strengths are. Sure, you're being told every day, and I might even have to tell you sometime, hey, I want you to work on this. But also at the same time, I want to point out what you're already doing right, what you're already doing well. I want you to know that there's value in what you're doing.
Right.
You can grow in some things, but there's value in what you're doing.
And how can we enhance those strengths? You know, a person that has ADHD, what I've seen is that it's so important to channel that energy. They may be hyperactive. How can we channel that hyper energy into something productive? Are we putting them into sports? Are we tapping into art? You know, do they like to dance? You know, maybe they need to go into gymnastics, or even something as simple as giving them 10 minutes before they go to bed, just to dance and jump and do whatever. You know, how are we tapping into that creative side instead of forcing a person with ADHD to feel like they have to change or limit themselves? Yeah,
don't just talk about it. Like, actually help them, support them, right, to do that, and help them to find ways, outlets for them to outlets for them to express their strength and even how they're different, right? Their ADHD, you know, could make them like we mentioned, stand out a little bit, be a little different. But there are even ways that, like you mentioned, that they can that we can support that, right? That they can outlets that we can find, I would say, where they can feel safe doing some of those things.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like with the strengths part of it and the creativity part of it, it's more of also modeling for them. And I think on a previous episode with Tamara, she also mentioned mirroring. Right, so they do what they see, and then they also, do what we do or what we teach them, type thing. So I think that's very important as well. To remember that modeling and mirroring is actually a true thing. So they're going to do what they see you do, or mimic what you do. So if I pay attention to some of their symptoms, I can help teach them through my own actions and being mindful of that as well. So,
do you remember, Hannah, in the book, in Audra's book? Audra Wilson's book, if she mentioned taking medication at all? Or I'm just curious.
I don't recall, but what I do recall is that she said that she channeled that hyperactivity into basketball. You know, so
Beautiful.
she didn't just sit in that in those feelings of feeling different. She channeled it into something productive. And as you all know, you know, she plays for the WNBA now.
Best player in the best
I
female
believe
player in
so.
the world.
I believe so.
Period.
You know, we're a little biased, but we believe that she has done amazing just to have a disability or have the condition of ADHD. She's done amazing things to show other people that you can do. You can go as far as your dreams will allow you to, and that's the sky. So we definitely commend her for the work she's done and being a role model for other individuals that don't have mental health conditions and that do have mental health conditions. And I just wanted to highlight the fact that ADHD can look different in different settings. So it looks different in women compared to men. Some of the symptoms that women experience can be different than what men experience. And ADHD also looks different in other settings. So a child in school, that's going to look different compared to somebody that has ADHD that's working. And it also looks different in relationships. If you have a partner that deals with ADHD, that is going to be different. So there's differences that I just wanted to highlight.
I would say, what are some of the things that we have to look out for because they could be potential dangers? You know, when someone has ADHD.
Yeah.
Yeah, can y'all
One that
speak on that?
I was just going to ask for clarification. Like, when you say potential dangers, what do you mean by that?
I thought I knew what I meant, but I don't know.
Well, I have an answer.
Let me
Go
see
ahead,
what
go
Hannah
ahead,
said.
maybe
I have
can
one
review.
answer. One that I can think of is a person with ADHD may forget things easily. So in my opinion, I dated someone and they had ADHD and they often forgot to lock my front door.
Okay.
Which, you know, to me, that is protocol. To me, that's standard. It should happen every time you come in the door. But this was a routine thing for this person. And I became frustrated. You know, at first I was patient with the individual. You know, please lock my door when you come in. Second time it happened, you know, I kind of upped the tone a little bit. You need to lock my door when you come in because safety is important to me. The third time it happened, I'm not gonna lie. My attitude. I was not patient and understanding. Let's just say that. And some choice words were used. However, what I learned from that situation is that I could have done tactical things to help that person remember to lock the door. I could have left a sticky note at the door. Hey, remember to lock the door. I could have sent them a text before they came in. Hey, when you come in, don't forget to lock the door. So that is an example of being patient and understanding. But to answer your question, that is one of the risks that, you know, for forgetting things. That's one of the risks that can come with ADHD.
Thank you for saying that too. So what I was thinking about too, y'all, I was just thinking, wow, it's just dealing with some folks in the past that were at least diagnosed with ADHD. It seemed like some of their behaviors were risky, like taking a lot of risks.
Impulsive.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, you could turn that around some kind of way, but you know, when you're looking at it, it sounds like a danger, right? So I was really asking to just for us to uncover some other dangers as well. So that was my impetus for it.
So impulse control, that can look like a lot of things. I mean, that could look like sex addiction, or that could look like substance use, drugs, alcohol. That could look like impulse control as far as gambling. Just different things like that are like negative things that society sees as negative things that can cause a problem in their lives, right? And what's interesting is someone in impulse control could also possibly be seen as being manic. So that's another misdiagnosis, right? So I think that's why it's very important to, really look at a person's situation, the environments they're in. It's important to look at the different symptoms, but also how it's impacted individuals and when they occur, when it was the onset of the symptoms. So when the symptoms first started, how long it's been going on for. There's a lot of things you got to really take into account and factor in when you're trying to diagnose someone. So instead of just saying, "Oh, this person has ADHD," or "looks like they have ADHD," just throwing it around like it's nothing. It's very important to really get a true diagnosis, whether it's ADHD, whether it's depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, any diagnosis, because if you're not treating the right thing, you can cause more harm than good.
I really appreciate your question, Josh, and I appreciate your response to that. I think that, to answer your question, people with ADHD often make decisions impulsively. So it's not just their actions. They also make decisions and process things in an impulsive way. So that can be dangerous. That can be risky. It can come down to substance abuse. It can come down to sexual activity. They may make impulsive sexual decisions that have lifelong consequences. So I think that the essence of them making decisions impulsively can be dangerous in itself, which leads me to say, and I don't want to cut the topic off, but that leads me to say that selecting a profession or a career is so important for an individual that has ADHD, as well as other, psychological disorders, because you want to pick a profession or a job that caters to that side of you. Even though that's just part of your identity, it can be a very large part of your identity. So you want to cater to a job, for example, if you know that you're a pretty hyper person, you want to cater to or find a job that allows you maybe to stand up or do tasks with your hands or to move around. Compare it to finding a job where you sit at your desk all day, because you may wander off mentally, even physically, but you may become easily distracted compared to catering to, different sides of you.
I can see that. And I'm definitely not someone that's been diagnosed with ADHD or that even thinks that I have it. But I always get asked the question at work, because I have a desk job. I always get asked the question at work, like, why you always getting up and walking around? Sometimes I work better that way, right? If I'm on the phone, if I can get up and I can walk around, or if I'm thinking about something intently, I can get up and I may go and take a walk. I may take a walk for 30 minutes thinking about something. It's work related, but just moving around, and I can see how people thrive in different environments. So that's a good point there, Hannah. Choosing your work life, choosing your career wisely, even choosing your friends wisely too. I would think about, kind of just came to me. You definitely gonna need a good support system.
Right.
When you have any type of disorder, you're gonna need a good support system. People who are understanding, right? People who won't put your behaviors on blast, right? And judge your different behaviors and whatnot. So.
And I just want to talk about some personal experiences that people have shared with me about how ADHD impacts them. I've heard one person say that it feels like they have 100 tabs open in their head at one time. So they're hearing voices in their head that is tapping into one tab that may be about a completely different topic than another tab. So just imagine how confusing that is.
Yeah.
I had another example. It just left my brain. Oh, dang. I hate when this happens.
It happens to all of us, trust me. Especially me.
To the best of us.
Yeah. Especially me. But if it comes back, we here.
It was kind of important, too.
Oh, man.
Dang it.
It may come back. But yeah, that's all.
Okay, I remember what it was.
Told you. Just give her a moment. That's all.
And then something else I wanted to add is that it's so important to find different hobbies. If you have ADHD, find a hobby that helps you channel that creativity into something productive. As we spoke earlier, it may be dancing, it may be art, but find some type of hobby, not only as a child, but also as an adult that can help you.
Most definitely. Those are ways for us to pick up the pieces. So, I think that, when we're dealing with people with disorders, we have to be very careful, and I think it's been said, to not just jump the gun and label a behavior. You know, you got to have all the pieces, right? Sometimes we're missing pieces. Speaking of that,
that was a smooth transition.
I know what that boy calls some stuff.
That was a smooth transition.
That boy calls some stuff.
don't know what you're talking about. But speaking of that,
Missing pieces.
missing pieces.
Okay.
Terrence, I know we asked earlier about, you know, y'all dealing with folks with ADHD, but
Yeah.
Do you in your practice, and if not, like tell us a little bit more about your practice, man.
So my practice is called Missing Pieces Counseling Services, located in Spartanburg, but I am licensed in South Carolina and North Carolina. You know, I have seen individuals with ADHD. I've seen people with depression, anxiety, and some trauma. That's why I said it's very important to really try to assess an individual to really figure out what is the diagnosis they need or have in order to make sure you're treating the right thing. So again, like in my practice, I've been going on for about 5 years now. So I try to do my best as a clinician to do my best assessment, and that includes trying to find the underlying reason of why you're having the symptoms and not just looking at the symptoms and giving you a diagnosis. And that involves working collaboratively with the client in order to do so. So, yep.
So what's the phone number or website? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so phone number is 864-256-4087. So that's 864-256-4087. And the website is www.missingpiecescounselingllc.com.
Okay.
And who's your shirt guy?
Huh?
Who's your shirt guy?
I can't give you all the information now.
Okay,
you know?
did you showcase your?
Well, this was Big
hard,
Worm.
Man. Yeah,
Big Worm.
Ice cream truck.
Yeah, ice cream
Let's
truck.
go.
What you want? What you want?
And
what you got?
And also with your private practice missing pieces.
Yes.
Do you accept insurance?
Yes, I do. Mainly right now, just accepting Blue Cross Blue Shield. But that's pretty much all I'm accepting right now. So.
Okay. And I'm pretty sure our producers will put more information about your private practice in the notes below. So if you all want to check out Terrence's private practice with mental health, he explained different conditions that he works with. And even if you don't feel like you align with one of the conditions he listed, he's here for holistic support and guidance. So
That's correct.
Shout out to Missing Pieces.
Shout out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Most definitely. How y'all feeling?
I'm
Feeling
good.
great. Yeah. I just wanna state that ADHD is very common.
Yep.
Please don't feel like an outcast. You know, instead of feeling like an outcast, there are ways to create a comfortable and safe environment where you're still able to have a condition while also still being yourself. So, you know, reach out to your resources, reach out to your friends, even reach out to yourself and dig deeper as to what can you do to enhance that creativity side.
Yep.
I love it. Been another great episode, y'all. Oh, and remember, have grace, right? With,
Oh, yeah.
Patience.
with patience and grace, you know, with folks that are out there
Flexible.
that you know are going through things. So, been another great episode. We appreciate you all for joining us once again. Please continue to follow the show. Please continue to like. Please continue to comment. Let us know. Let us know more things like this, right? That you want to hear us talking about. It's so much fun being able to engage with you all. So hope to have you back next time. Sorry. See you all again soon.
Sounds good. Y'all take care.
See ya.